Alrighty, week 12 in JavaScript. And this week, as we are on the second half, going towards the end of the semester, I really started thinking about this course because this is the week that I actually hadn't done pre recorded content that I had over summer. And as I started to do the content for form validation, which is such an important topic in JavaScript, I had it planned for to be covered in this week in the 12.1 and 12.2. And as I was doing the coding for it, I kept going down rabbit holes. Like I was coding and I was realizing, oh, you know what? This actually would be great to be covered, or this would be great to be covered. And then I realized, you know what? I'm trying to rush where I think I'm not going to do that this time, because one of the things that I think happens, and this is why I said in this context, change is good. By me recording this stuff over summer, which I don't regret in any way because it allowed me to completely focus on what I was doing, it also didn't give me the benefit of the insight of watching you work through the content. I mean, it did in the sense I got to do attendance, which was really good. And I would try to bring into attendance things that I felt wasn't being done or needed to be covered more. But one of the things, as I reflect back, and this is the natural iteration of anything we do in life, we do something, we look at the way it was implemented, and we go, you know what? Here's how I'm going to change that to make it even better. So, one of the things before I did the rewrite this summer, I had done when I created all the code myself prior, was I did more code challenges. And this time I was using the checkpoints as kind of a code challenge. And I don't know that they translate as well, honestly, now that I've looked back at it. Because the sooner you actually start coding on your own, to at least attempt it, the better. And that is something that I have come to realize, and part of why I did the partial versus the full implementation or the technical interview. So I thought, you know what? I could wait until I redo this course again. And I thought, no, I can actually start now to actually implement it with both the benefit of the more updated, modern, best practice code that Google, Gemini, and I have written together, because it's a collaborative effort. There's so many things I could show you that it gives me, and I'm like, no, here's what and it's such a good back and forth, and that's what I find AI to be so helpful for. Coming back. So what I thought I would do here, and I'm going to do it on the graded part of the work, and I'll do that next. But I just want you to know that what you're going to see this week is going to be different. That's my point. It's going to be different. I think what I'm going to do, and this is one of those often with attendance, I've already recorded the content, but I'm actually doing it in sequential way. I actually have an idea of what the code alongs will be, but I think the checkpoints are actually going to be more like code challenges, like you're going to see today in attendance. So I give you a challenge, you do your best to do it. I would definitely recommend authentically doing it, and then I'm going to show you how I did it. But in this case, if you have a tendency to just go to AI, you're not helping your learning process. Of course, I wouldn't know, okay? It's really you that knows. It's you that realizes that you're shortcutting. Well, I don't know if you realize that. I guess what I want to say is you're shortcutting your process of learning. Okay. So before I get into the graded part, though, a reminder, right? So the tutoring sessions, the late passes, I've talked about those. Definitely, somebody asked me today, if I just go by, do I have to go to the whole hour? No, you don't. But it has to be an authentic, like you need help and you're getting help. Just dropping in to say hi. And I know that I don't want to say you have to be there an hour. I want to say it needs to be authentic, is what I would say. But anyway, that's how and some of you haven't even used the two passes that you have. So, and I definitely recommend using them on decision apps, the decision steps, okay? All right, so now's also a great time to get on. I didn't say which schedule, the technical interview schedule. Okay, so I'm going to drop my video for this part. So, what I want you to do here, we're preparing for, and let me just show you where we're heading, okay? So this is the carbon footprint, what you're going to end up having, at least as far as the HTML goes. But what we're going to end up doing is adding spans, which is a type of HTML element, and inside of those we'll add a class. You'll have a class. You'll have a class that determines, of course, this coloring here. But I'm going to have you go through, I'll show you how to do the first one, and I want you to go through and add the rest of these, okay? Because what we're going to do in the code along is we're actually going to learn to code form validation, and these are just placeholder context that I want you to have, showing that you see where they're being placed, because sometimes in the HTML it's not clear where they need to be placed, and I just want you to see that. So coming back here, right, so what you're going to do is you're going to work through this markdown. Okay, so 60 points will be from actually doing the commits that align, your commits that align with your code. And you'll see what I mean by this now. So let's go in here. So in here, I've given you a markdown file. So updating the HTML for form validation. And actually, I should have said HTML and JavaScript because we're going to do a little of both. So the first thing you're going to do is set up that week 12 folder, copying that week 11, right? Making sure, by the way, a couple of you I've mentioned on your code alongs that you needed to fix things before you move forward. So make sure that those are there or they'll continue to impact your grade, right? So do that. So in this case, then do a commit, right? So, and then in your week 12, go ahead and add this error message. It may by chance be there. I couldn't remember exactly when, but anyway, you add this, and it's a class that we have, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So first add that, and then I'll discuss how to do household members. That's what I'll do next. And then you'll code the rest of these where they and here are the IDs that you will end up using. Okay. So I'm just going to grab that one just to show you. Okay. And then you'll have a commit, and then I'll come to the next part. All right, so let's move over to my VS Code. So I have opened my VS Code. I have the week 12. I've been playing around with a couple of things. So this is for the household members. Okay, so what you'll do is after the input, you'll do a span. Now you could just do span. Oh, that's if I know how to type. You'll do, because you can use emit here, you can do span, tab, that will actually create it. But you can also make this even a little easier. You can do span and then give it a pound sign. And then in here, actually give it, and I pasted in that error message, okay? Now you could just hit tab here. That happens sometimes, what I just saw. And that probably is because I pasted it. And I'm going to do undo to come back. Okay, so what this is you're actually writing shortcut code in a sense, okay? Because now I'm actually going to give it in a class. It's called error message, that class that we had, okay? Okay, so with that one line, I can create a span that has an ID for what I want it, and then the error message is the class. Okay, so I'm going to hit tab again. Oop. And notice sometimes it does that, so I will get rid of the last one, and then when I hit tab, there you have it. Okay, and so I'm going to grab this, and you can actually, let's go to the HTML, and I'll just grab that first one, form, input, household, div. Should have already had it. I should probably input this in actually the, as long as you're consistent, I'm going to say remove after testing error message, because we'll end up changing, updating these, removing them through code later on, but it's just a way for us to see them. So I'm going to come back to my HTML, and then in between there, I'll put remove after testing error message goes here. Okay, so that's the way, and I want you to do all of these. Okay, so you'll have one for, and you can, I don't have to go through the list, you can see all the places they are. Okay, so then once you're done with that, you're going to say commit with error message. Commit with message, HTML update for, and I'm going to say form validation, FV, error messages. Okay, so get all that done, do that commit. Okay, now after you get all that done, then you're going to come into your app.js, and now in your app.js is where you're going to put, and this is the second part, your DOM references for each of your new error messages. So for each of these, you're going to do an error message DOM reference, okay? And you're going to create that using query selector, okay? So remember, this is get element ID. We already have a reference into the DOM through the ID. And so, and we saw this more when we did in here where we would say query selector and then the ID, okay? So in this case, I want you to, and you don't have to add any input, you can just keep the error sorry, let me go back to my app.js. You can keep the name, also the error message. I mean, we could make it different, right? But in this case, and I'm not giving an example, I'm just giving you what I want you to do because it's a little more of a code challenge. You will see mine in a minute, well, whenever you finish, okay? So I'm going to read this again. So now in your app.js, create DOM references for each new error message created above, well, here, using query selector on the existing DOM reference of carbon footprint. Okay? So then you should have this many new variables in your app.js, and then commit that with DOM references added for form validation error message. Okay? Okay, again, this one we've seen, so it's a little more of a challenge. Okay, actually the other one, but let me just show you too what that should look like just from the first spans, putting them in there. So you should have them, you can kind of look through this to see, yeah, did you get that right? Cool, that's how many shad, that's what I will look for, and I will show you mine on the next video, but more importantly, I'll probably show you just those references. Okay? Okay, so let's come back to attendance and wrap up what you need to do here for this week. So then your code aligning with your commits that you did, and remember, the idea is once you see mine, you can totally update yours, and really, it's not a bad thing. This is not what I would consider a high-end challenge. This is just getting you primed for the week and just really doing more code, hopefully on your own, which I had already hoped you had, but I've noticed definitely in some of the code, the decision steps, it's been a challenge for students, and I think that's where I feel like I want to start changing now, maybe rather than to cover a lot more content, like give you a chance to really hone those skills. All right, so reply with any questions or comments about this work or and actually I should say my first video, I ended up putting it all in one, so this video, and then reply to one classmate that does not have something about something they said, right? So after you hit reply, and again, do your best, right? Do your commits. You can absolutely add a commit based on what you see me do next, but you won't be able to see it until you hit reply. Okay, and by the way, it does track when you do these replies, so do it authentically here, give it your best shot, and then I'll show you my result next. All right, talk to you later.